We've got great panelists. I'll tell you a little bit about each of them before we get started. First of all, and we'll go this away, from near me to far from me. Patti Chu, unexpectedly for a session on Southeast Asia, is a native of Argentina. And with her work experience in Latin America, US, Asia, and Europe, Patti then co-founded something called Mana Impact, which is an impact investing advisory with particular focus on access to finance, education, climate, and nature. And next to her is Jinkyung Choi, who is the Senior Program Manager of Korea Social Value and Solidarity Foundation. And you might say, wait a minute, this is supposed to be about Southeast Asia. Why do we have, actually, you'll find two Koreans for this session, and we'll know in a moment. So SVSF is focused on investing in building the impact finance ecosystem with particular attention to Southeast Asia. And Jinkyung is in charge of the foundation's international cooperation and knowledge sharing projects. And then Jeong, at the far end, is a leader at something called Impact Square, which is Korea's first impact business consultancy. And Impact Square supports startups in their goal to create social and environmental value. And the way they do this is by connecting them with resources, introducing them to impact investments, and planning different ways to collaborate with governments and corporations. So a number of different views on this space in the Southeast Asia ecosystem. And so our speakers will talk a bit about why they're doing what they're doing, what the challenges are of that. So let's launch right away into that. So let me start with you, Patti. Argentina-based, or Argentina from, why Southeast Asia? What are the key impact focused investment opportunities that you've observed?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So my name is Patti. I'm originally from Argentina. Actually, I just came back from Cali in Colombia from the Biodiversity COP. But I've been living in Singapore for the last 12 years. Southeast Asia, I think currently we have 700 million people. And I think, all the stats look at economic growth for the next, I think, 10 years of, 5% year on year. Southeast Asia is also, I think, really key in the energy transition. We have some of the key minerals like copper, tin, it's coming mostly from Southeast Asia. I was just looking today at the stats at 85% of the palm oil production comes from Indonesia and Malaysia. 22% of aquaculture comes from Southeast Asia. So I think for me, for the work that we do at Mana, it's quite important in the sense of, how do we balance economic growth with our natural resources and livelihoods. And so I think I see a lot of opportunities of how to do so from an investor point of view, how to support the transition, how to, not extract resources at all costs, but do it more sustainably, looking at alternative materials. And the other sad thing that I forgot about the stats is that, I think if we look at plastic pollution, some of the biggest countries polluting are from Southeast Asia. So how do we find solutions for that? So from an impact, potential impact scale for us is really interesting.
Jinkyung, can you answer the same question? Why Southeast Asia for you, looking on from Korea?
Yeah, actually, it was quite natural progress according to the development of Korean impact sector. because for the last, it's been only a decade that the term of the impact investing is recognized in Korean society. And recent 5 years, actually, the sector has got on the fast track of development because of the government support on the promotion of social economy and social finance. Announced in 2017 and 2018, and that was the first time actually the government created this impact fund, the vehicle, through the fund of funds. So from that point, the sector has been grown very rapidly, and with this development, actually, the brave social entrepreneurs in Korea started to look for a reason actually for their development, their scaling up in their businesses and impact in a bigger market with the opportunity to meeting a various pool of the investors who understand the nature of their businesses. So this is so we are actually investing in around 10 impact funds in Korea. And among our portfolios, there are a significant number of the Korean enterprises actually started to work in the region. And also the accelerators and VCs in Korea who are pioneers actually in going to the Southeast Asian market. They started to open their sister company or the branch office in Singapore, and with that post, they started working with startups in Southeast Asia. And also doing based on their previous experiences in Korean market, they accelerate these early stage enterprises and also started to a few investment at the moment. So as an LP of the sector, we naturally just going with this trend. But actually, we just started to research on the market. We don't have any practice yet. So please understand that aspect. Thank you.
So go ahead.
You also want me to mention about the challenges that we face, right?
If you can answer that. I was going to say, since you haven't really started, I was going to ask that of you, but if you can address that question of challenges that you face there,
yeah,
go
actually,
ahead.
It was difficult to where to start. I think many of you who has similar intentions like us also experienced that. Although there are quite a vibrant scene of the venture capitals and also the social enterprises moving in this, the working in the area, but since the Korean LPs don't have much skinship with those entities, so it is really difficult to find the partner who we can discuss with our concerns and interests. So we just knocked on the door to Impact Square, how you are doing in the region, and that is actually how we got here. And also another difficulties is actually in many of the Southeast Asian countries, there is no the socially agreed term of impact investing or social economy. So we as a foreign impact investors is just categorized as either commercial investor or the aid organizations. So we need to go through a lot of unnecessary regulations and unnecessary cost actually we have to deal with. So I think that would be the challenges that we can face in the beginning stage.
Thank you. And once you get past the beginning, you have all your clients who've been facing these challenges. What's most different or important for them?
Well, I thought maybe, we can go to Jay and then I will answer the challenges, but then also I can talk about, the next topic of the differences within Southeast Asia. Or do you want me to talk about?
Please.
So I think that, yeah, I mean, we talk about Southeast Asia, but within Southeast Asia, there are 11 countries. So it ranges from Singapore, which I think you can consider a more developed economy, and then all the way you have like Laos, right, or Myanmar, which is in political turmoil. So I think that, yeah, there's a big range in terms of investor readiness, right? There's also many different languages. Everybody speaks their own language. So, and I think that, yeah, there aren't that, I guess, exit pathways for investments. If we're looking at, equity investments, there are still quite limited case studies and proven examples of it. So I think, yeah, as an investor, depending of what kind of capital stack or what kind of return you're looking for, it can also be a challenge. Yeah, but I'll pass it to Jay to talk more about that.
So Southeast Asia is indeed a highly diverse region, and I think one of the key things to remember as investor is that success is not always about the high-tech or cutting-edge innovation, and not every market in the region demands highly advanced technology as the primary driver for the growth or success. But I believe that what's truly matters is how solutions are tailored to the market. So I'd love to say about one of the examples that we've recently invested in is a company called Altano. It's a sand battery company in Vietnam, and they convert solar energy into electricity and then back into heat. And this isn't the most cutting edge or highly advanced technology compared to other countries like Europe or Finland, where similar technologies exist. But the real value we saw in Altano is how they addresses the social problems like reducing post-harvest losses. So it is caused by inefficient and traditional drying systems in agriculture. And so Altano not only provides the sand battery, but they offers turnkey drying systems, which is customized for different crops, and they allowing farmers to reduce significantly reduce its losses. And in this case, we are not talking about the competing with high technologies from advanced markets, but we are looking at a appropriate technology which is sufficiently advanced to meet the local needs. I think this is what makes it a strong investment in the regions. And additionally, Alternative's success isn't just limited to Vietnam. They already received the support from the networks like Singapore's Temasek Foundation, like secured additional funding, and they already have partnered with global companies like Pepsi for open innovation projects. And so I think this example highlights an important lessons like identifying companies or solutions and technology are not necessarily the most advanced technology, but I think it should well suited to the market. And yeah, so by investing in such appropriate tech, I think, and fostering local enterprises, we are creating a meaningful impact in the regions. And what works here might not have the same success in markets like South Korea or Japan, but I think in Southeast Asia, this approach is highly effective.
Great, thank you. What I'd like to do, if we can, is to drill down a little bit to make this come alive with some specific examples. And let's start with you, Jinkyung, if we can, but it's a question for all three of you. From your personal observations, what's a specific example, or more than one, of an impact investment or enterprise that you think of as most promising, most exciting, or most surprising?
Okay. Actually, our foundation was was a government initiative, Korean government initiative to create an impact wholesale fund in Korea, which was a bit delayed project because of the failure of adoption in the related law in the National Assembly. So now we are a private foundation and originally funded by the banks of the Federation of Banks in Korea and also other credit unions and cooperatives in Korea. So our mission is to providing economic or financial solutions to solve the social issues first. So we are interested in those solutions also in Southeast Asia. As you all know, Southeast Asia is on a very rapid speed of economic development at the moment, but also they have this huge gap, and social issues actually has not been solved according to this speed of the economic development, such as the gap between the urban and rural cities, and the equal opportunities of educations and also environment. They are hugely under impact of the climate change. So we are trying to look for the initiatives of solve these financial solutions in the region. So mainly two aspects maybe we can pick, although our impact spectrum is quite broad. First one would be the solutions for the financial inclusion in the region. Since the Southeast Asia, the widespread use of the digital devices, so there are many fintech startups working in the region. Maybe for a few cases of the Korean startups, they are trying to provide the micro loan platforms with the alternative credit assessment scheme they developed, or they also there is another Korean enterprises who created this platform for international transfer for the migrant workers, because many of the Southeast Asian workers are actually working in the other regions of the Asia. So so those kind of the solutions that we are interested in at the moment. And also, since we are based on the social and solidarity economy sector, we are interested in the community-based businesses, which has a lot of, which has quite a sustainable impact in the community, but their trajectory of development is not fit for the equity investment actually. So we are also interested in those blended finance schemes to support the micro and small medium enterprises run by women or youth, and also the self-help finance in the communities.
Great, thank you. Would you like to go next?
One of the most promising and exciting investments we've made in the region is a company called Patti, which is a home service platform in Vietnam. So, and they connect clients with domestic workers through an app. And it may seem like a bit simple service, but if you look deeper, there is a lot of potential and impact embedded within the business. So before Patti existed, domestic workers in Vietnam mostly rely on word of mouth referrals to find jobs, and this limits their job opportunities while clients have very few options to choose. But with the introduction of Patti, both clients and domestic workers have a greater flexibility and choice. But that's not all. The sector like domestic work is often an industry with poor labor conditions, and they usually hired without legal protections like contracts, so they can be underpaid or also they can easily face misunderstandings with no safety net to fall back on. But Bitaski changes that, so it ensures domestic workers receive the pay they are promised, and if in any cases of disputes or issues, the platform supports them and allows workers, giving them the security they are previously lacked. So, so I think what sets Bitaski apart from their competitor is not just their revenue or number of clients or the platform users, but it's their commitment to creating a worker-friendly environment. And also, Bitaski is the only platform who provides free training to workers or anyone who interested in joining the field. So it helps uplifts of workers' skills and their professionalism, and makes it a different in their career development. And they also also they have reward systems for workers. So where outstanding workers are gifted trips for as a form of recognition. So I think and for these workers, many of whom have never had such opportunities before, it's a meaningful experience. And most of these workers are women, so they are balancing childcare and also need to earn money, and also many of them have limited education and fewer job options. So Bitaski allows them the flexibility to work during the time that suits them. So the mission-driven services and supporting system provided by Bitaski is, I think, a great source of motivation for workers, and which in turn, it strengthens the company's overall competitiveness. So I think I don't deny that Bitaski is priced higher than its competitor, but despite this, they are still the leading player in their markets and an achievement that speaks volume. So at the core, I believe that social value and economic value don't have to be in conflict. I think they can enhance each other, like these examples. So yeah. So, and also we are focused on finding and developing the mission-driven business models like Bitaski that creates both social impact and competitive returns as well. And I think Southeast Asia in particular, where the potential of this kind of business model is much higher than other regions.
It's great, encouraging and exciting. Thank you for sharing. How about you? Do you have any examples you would share with us, Patti?
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess our work is quite focused around natural capital. So interestingly, some of these policies that are coming in Europe are really having, I think, a positive effect in Southeast Asia. So I guess going back to the fact that Southeast Asia has a lot of commodities, with the EU deforestation law, for example, the larger companies need to report, right? And so we have a company based in Indonesia called Cultiva. They provide traceability services. But so, for example, for like Nestle, Cargill, they need to know where the cocoa comes from. And so they will pay for that scope 3, which is really hard to get. But at the same time, they will, so Cultiva also provides training, so makes sure that the farmers are practicing more sustainable, regenerative practices, and sort of can also report on, the amount of, chemicals reduced and soil health improved. And then also if it's more sustainable, then a higher price can be paid for that commodity. And so they're I think, an enabler in that, showing that, the outcome of that. And then So yeah, we're excited because it provides both like sustainability, environmental impact, as well as livelihood impact. I think another company that we're excited about is seaweed. I mean, these days, I feel seaweed is quite popular in the West. But of the companies that we have seen in Europe, because I think there's quite a lot of, or in the US, I guess on the West Coast, there's quite an amount of innovation or funding available. The fact is that in Asia, because the waters are warmer, we actually can harvest 3 times a year. So the unit economics just go down significantly. So this company is in Indonesia, and they are already producing biostimulants, so replacing sort of biochemicals and for agricultural applications. But now they're also creating bioplastics. So that's also a much larger sort of market potential. So quite excited about those things.
Great. Thank you. Let me mention, I don't know if you mentioned it at the beginning, that we'll be doing Q&A. So if you have any questions, someone will come around and have cards for you to give questions, which we'll address at the end. All right, moving on. We talked about what's going on, what's exciting, what's a bit challenging. When you think about those things, what are some of the strategic measures that you see are needed to create a more resilient impact investment environment in Southeast Asia? And also, how do you see the Southeast Asia market for impact enterprises evolving over the coming years? So that's a question for all of you. Whoever would like to jump on that first.
To build more resilient impact investment ecosystem in Southeast Asia, I think we need to address a few key strategies. So first, I think impact startups need to enter markets where they can make a difference. While it's important to invest in the regions, but I think we have to recognize the unique characteristics and constraints of the regions. So, like for instance, deep tech or high tech, or those requiring significant capital expenditure is often harder to scale locally. So, while local investments are crucial, another approach is bringing the advanced technology from other markets like Korea or Japan, and then make partnering with local organizations and to implement it in the local context. So a good example is a Korean company which is called Nespa, and they collect discarded fishing nets and recycles them into high purity nylon. And now they are planning to expand their businesses into Southeast Asia, where there is a large supply of discarded nets. And so this kind of cross-border collaboration is, I think, a great model. And this allows us to leverage technologies where it is needed most. And and it ensures it's applied in the local context. And I think secondly, blended finance is critical for growing impact investment ecosystems. So for example, we've worked with KOICA, it's Korea government's ODA agency, and combining an investment capital with grants. And KOICA, along with the organizations like USAID in the US or JICA in Japan, they play a key role in supporting impact investment projects. And so I think their involvement can greatly scale the impact and effectiveness of this investment. And by combining public funding with private capital, we can lower the risks of private investors and also attract more capital into this emerging market. So this approach creates a win-win situation for all parties involved. And for instance, our program has successfully partnered with NGOs like World Vision. So we channel two funds into this impactful project, and also it lower investor risk while amplifying the social impact. So another example is the thematic foundations. So they are running a challenge and to bring in investors, and also so I think and generate collaborative solutions. So this kind of cross-sector partnership is crucial to overcoming systemic barriers and fostering long-term sustainable growth in the regions. And I think creating a resilient impact investment ecosystem requires, as I mentioned, targeted market entry and leveraging branded finance and collaboration between government and nonprofits and private sectors.
Okay. Jaewon covers a lot of my points, but I'd like to emphasize two. Actually, I'd like to share with you my ideas, two ideas. First one is the role of each sector. Because based on Korean situation in Korean market, we had this very strong support from the public sector for last decade. So it was a great opportunity for the actors to grow, but actually the 10 years of the support was not enough, because we are now facing this backdrop of the actually the going back of these policies in now current government. So we have this even actually balanced growth in each of the stakeholders in the ecosystem. So private, we need to work on the private sector investors who now are very aggressively making their investment in the Southeast Asia. Sometimes they just allow a lot of irresponsible business activities in the region. Like, for example, the Korean companies, big companies, they just do very significant harm in their local economy and also the environment through their business activities. To prevent that, actually, Southeast Asian government need to find that the right point actually to how they regulate these the aggressive predatory businesses activities of the commercial investment, and also how they can promote this impact investment in their the countries. So I think ASEAN can actually work together since they have this interregional association. So that would be my idea, and also our regret actually at the moment that we are now working with a lot of private sector partners to engage them, to make them engage into more impact investing sector. Yeah, that would be the first part. And second part I'd like to emphasize the importance of the intermediaries. Since there are a lot of new emerging fund managers in the region who are very brave and competent and sometimes successful, but I think it's still a lot less than we needed actually. So diversity of these funds and also those fund managers, and also the from the LP side, actually, the Naina from AVPN mentioned in the yesterday's opening plenaries, there are a lot of new emerging individuals who can become very powerful impact investors in Asia. So we need to we try to not to miss those opportunities, actually, to make them engaged more in the impact investment in Southeast Asia. Yeah.
I think that the ecosystem of impact investors in Southeast Asia is still quite sort of, I don't know if the word is nascent or maybe it's a better word is fledgling maybe. And I think that there needs to be more of a value chain. There are definitely philanthropists, or more catalytic capital working on one silo. There are more sort of finance-driven impact investments, perhaps more in access to finance, microfinance. But yeah, I don't think that there's a sort of if I look at the VC space in the U.S. or whatnot, there's sort of like a chain, right? Like there are investors that play in the early stage and if they succeed, they kind of naturally go and graduate to the next stage, and that's how I think that the ecosystem is complete, right? And then because I think at least for us, some of the challenges or pain points that we're feeling at the moment is that we are okay to take that more early stage risk. But then we've realized, I guess, that there's nobody really to pass the ball to in the next stage. And so we have to go in continuously handhold in the next stage. But then it's not realistic. Just like I guess I usually use the school education system. Some people are specialists in kindergarten and then others are primary, and you can't do all the way kindergarten to PhD. I mean, it's mission impossible. And how many can you bring all the way to PhD? So so I think what we are trying to do at Mana as well is really, I think what Jay was talking about, these collaborations, right? Like there are so many opportunities. It's really not about, I think all of us here are really interested in creating an impact beyond just financial return. So how do we really make the best use of our resources and sort of ping pong back, right? And I think, this is a little bit what we are trying to do with Impact Square as well. Some of the investments that they're looking at, we're trying to share deal flow and sort of, same here. So starting to form, I guess, these really more intentional alliances, I think it's really important. And I think the other thing is, what I notice is that we really need to be more creative in the use of tools fit for purpose. So I think a lot of what I see is either grants, right, which are really necessary, or then we have, equity investments. And I guess, again, like if we are in a hospital, you really need different, diagnosis tools for it. But especially in the space that we're looking at, I think not every single investment has a, unicorn potential. And that's the reality of it. And so we need different tools. In Southeast Asia particularly, I think one of the things that we're looking more into is actually working capital debt, because most financial institutions don't really lend, unless you have collateral, guarantors, and all these things. And actually some small businesses that are not going to be, venture or investable, they are still good businesses and can create good impact, but they don't need to be diluted, and they just need working capital. So yeah, those are some of the things that I think would make a much more resilient and efficient ecosystem.
Thank you all. As you've talked about this, some of you touched on this, but the elephant in the room maybe is about exit. What do you see, any of you who prefers to answer this, what do you see as in the challenge for exit? I mean, in the U.S., you mentioned the word unicorn, and because we talk about unicorns and then they go public. But exit means lots of things. Exit also can mean selling yourself to a place where the impact gets diluted or lost. What are you seeing among your companies? What are the prospects for exit becoming better if it's not good, or maybe it is good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you see in terms of that prospect in the region? Whoever you like.
I'll start because Jay just started before. So I think, in the current economic system, I think part of the reason why I'm talking about debt is that, the interest rate is pretty, reasonable, and it provides a fixed income, so you don't really need to look so much into like exits, right? So it's a good return, and I think it's a great question on the exits. I think for some of the things that we're looking at, we're also considering sort of embedding into the structure a sort of, I guess, a buyback clause. So at certain stage, year 7 or so, we would need to see our capital back. So in a way, in that point of view, I guess your exit potential is capped. So that's kind of in the worst case scenario, that basically the shareholders, the existing owners, have to buy back your shares. So then you can sort of secure some sort of exit. I think we haven't seen many IPOs yet. Probably the best you can get is a trade sale or an acquisition. I mean, the one that I think is planning to go IPO is eFishery from Indonesia. That's a $1 billion company value. So it is our only unicorn, I guess, at the moment. Yeah.
Right? Only one?
Of that size, impactful one, I think so. I mean, unless you think Grab, which is our Uber, is also impact.
Well, there's been
enterprise.
microfinance in the past that's gone big.
Yeah.
But nothing recent besides that, you're saying?
IPO? No. Not that I can think of, but yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on exit?
Actually, Korean market, in Korean market, we are also having these difficulties to finding an exit at the moment, because there are not many impact investors who can actually go into the next level of beyond the Series A and B. So, but there are a few Korean enterprises actually made a success into become an IPO or the merged into another companies. So that would be a possibility, but we still need more investors actually can, the diversity of the investments would be the solution for that. But I believe that would take some time.
We are an early stage investors. Like, we are focusing on very early stage impact startups in Korea. And in Korea, there are not many impact investors, so we cannot sell to other like the Series A or more focusing on investors. Our impact startups, I mean, but still there is some of our partner investors in Korea. So when we invested in very early stage in startups in Korea, then there is another investors who invest in them next to us. But in Southeast Asia, we just started to invest in. So we are looking at other partners who can cooperate with us.
Great. I'll tell you where we are. We have a bunch of questions. We're not supposed to go to Q&A quite yet, but we have so many questions that are extensions of what we're talking about that I think we should go there a little bit early. And so let me turn to that. And these are great questions, thank you. One question is, what does ASEAN learn from Korea? The question was actually Korea or Japan, but at least two of you are better positioned to talk about Korea, and I don't know about what you can answer with that. But whichever of you has a view, where's the chance to avoid pitfalls or become more technologically advanced because Korea's there being a partner to them?
Can you address one more time?
So, the concept of leapfrogging. So jumping ahead in technology or in solutions. And the question is, since there are partnerships with the rest of Asia, so, it doesn't have to be specifically Korea or Japan or Singapore, but what are the areas where it seems like you could actually drop new approaches or drop new technologies onto ASEAN, and some of those economies could adopt them and benefit from not going through dial-up telephones or whatever? Does that make sense? If you want, I can plant that and we can go to something else and then come back to it if you want a moment.
No, actually, I can go first.
Okay.
I believe the trajectory of development of each country is all different. Yeah, I think that should be the answer for these kind of questions. But as a Korean who went through this very rapid economic growth and developed the development of democracy all at the same time, what we missed was, I believe, the social development aspect. So we are under a lot of symptoms actually going through, like decreasing population, and also we never thought about the moment when the economic growth is slowing down. So there are a lot of aspects that, like the youth employment or the aging societies and social care system. There are a lot of things to do at the moment. I think the ASEAN countries actually leapfrogging of these failures into more inclusive societies actually, when they can control this investment, commercial or the impact investment for their development, for more sustainable and inclusive development. So that would be my solutions. I think in terms of the technology and digital technology and the environmental technology, startups in Southeast Asia, they have the enough capacity actually to make the innovation in the region. So you don't need to look up the other countries' model. Maybe if we want to look up Korea, maybe we can give you a tip on how we made this legal framework and policy measures, because we are a bit early equipped those instruments. So that would be the lesson we maybe share with the other colleague countries in Southeast Asian region. I'm not sure that would be the right answer for you.
That's great. Anyone else want to speak to this question of leapfrogging potential?
I was thinking a bit more on the natural capital side of things. I think that, I can't speak about Korea specifically, but I think a lot of, even in, Europe or US, I think there has been, some of the measures in terms of like environmental restoration and all that, where or pollution. It was economic development first at the cost of everything else, and now we're seeing more, environmentally friendly policies. So I think, I guess, looking at the carbon market or biodiversity market, how can some of these Southeast Asian countries that have a lot of natural capital avoid further plundering and sort of preserve and conserve some of the pristine, biodiversity hotspots that are still left. And how to do that sort of in balance with the fact that people do need to have livelihoods, and then so I think that could be a different market to tap into. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And I think there's a risk that some in the audience think we're too upbeat in our view of how things are for impact investing in Southeast Asia. And the reason I think that is because we were asked, tell us about failure cases and what lessons we have from cases that that didn't work. And wait, there was another one. Oh, and also what lessons from experience of, say, Korea should Southeast Asia avoid? So what are the negative stories to take here in either way?
We've been invested in 3 Vietnamese companies so far, and I mentioned only 2 successful cases to you. So I want to skip this, but our second investment is in the impact startups in Vietnam, which supports mom and pops restaurants, like for helping them to like digitalize for their delivery, or they prepared all kinds of pre-cooked materials together, so reduce the cost like this. But they are not good in situation now. And the lesson what I learned from, but I don't think it's because that I'm Korean investor and they are Vietnamese company, but like what I learned that I've invested in Southeast Asia is that, in Vietnam, the impact startup ecosystem is just growing, and maybe some of the entrepreneurs who we invested in think of themselves, oh, I am impact entrepreneurs, but we see the impact in them. So in this stage, we need to careful to align the direction of the business development with them, because sometimes they are still learning, or sometimes they have impact in their businesses, but they don't realize yet. So yeah, we grow together and learning together.
So that's an interesting point, and there's always been a terminology issue about additionality versus intentionality. And in a lot of the developing world, companies that we would all say, oh, that's an impact enterprise, they're thinking, I'm just serving a market that exists. And so they may have no particular intentionality, but they have additionality in the impact sense of what they're providing that didn't exist before. Any other thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's specific about Southeast Asia, but we've made mistakes. And I think when it comes down to it, especially at early stage investments, it's about the team and the people. So yeah, sort of really it comes down to, the founding team and sort of the trust you have in them as well. And I guess for us, one of the things is, these investments are long-term ones. So the key to us is making sure, beyond whether there's a economic opportunity and whether the scale of the impact is, large enough, is we're going to be working with them for the next 7 to 10 years. I mean, do we want them to be part of our portfolio? Do we see them as, not that everything we say they have to do, but whether they are actually listening and coachable, and whether, all the business plans will look like a hockey stick, right? But the reality is that it's not going to pan out as that. So like how resilient they are, are they going to be able to make it in the next challenge? And yeah, so I think some of the failures that we had, I think at the end of it, if you go to the why, has very much been about, the team, the failure, that they haven't been able to pivot, that they were not, open to, like the fact that the market is not there yet, and that, just sort of I guess for our own also, we are not doing B2C anymore. I think we invested in a sort of high-end sustainable cocoa chocolate brand, and sort of it was a lot about marketing, which obviously it requires a lot of marketing dollars in there, and so those that at least for our firm is something that we don't really do. We do more B2B. But it was from a failure that we decided to move away from that. But at the end of it, I think some of the other failures just come to governance and people.
Good, thank you all. So we have one question which I've pushed you on a little bit, but we didn't do it here. But it's okay. You're investing across this region, but where do you really want to invest? Which countries? If you were to name a country or a sector in Southeast Asia that kind of blows your mind that there's so much opportunity there, where might that be? This is like asking you which is your favorite child, right? But if you can tell, they've asked, you've asked. So where are you really excited for potential across the region?
Actually, Myanmar is one of my favorite countries. So until recently, I saw a lot of economic growth potential, human capital, and also natural capital, which is what we are interested in most. But sadly, it's the political regime is not helping, and I guess from an opportunity perspective in Southeast Asia, everybody looks at either Indonesia or Vietnam. That's market size, and and I guess, but from I'm excited, or I'm looking more at the Philippines now. I do think that there are. Obviously, they also have a lot of natural capital, a lot of young, human capital, and I think great potential, but we haven't done anything there yet. I'll stop there.
My favorite country in Southeast Asia is actually Cambodia. And I already explored the market and cannot invest in them yet because the ecosystem need to grow and market size is too small now. But I'm expecting the promising entrepreneurs there whom I've met several times. And I want to contribute to more into their countries to make ecosystem better.
If we have to decide now, since that would be our first investment, the real investment in the region, I would pick Indonesia actually, because of the profitability, because of the possibility we could actually make a certain rate of the financial returns, and also at the same time the impact we could make. With the enterprises there, actually, they have been working on building this ecosystem for almost about a decade now. So I think the ecosystem is a bit reliable compared to other countries. But if it would be a second or third investment from our foundation, I would choose Philippines or Cambodia, which has more under influence with the crisis that we are facing collectively, like climate or economic challenges.
Great, thank you all. So I've done only an okay job of managing time. We have two more questions, but what I want to do with them, we don't have time. So I'm going to tell you about them, and they're involved. So if anyone wants to get the answer, you'll have to come up afterwards and ask or listen. The more provocative of the two is, have you faced any challenges working in a male-dominated environment of, say, finance and policy government? And adjoining that question is, I noticed a full female panel. I don't know what you think I am, but which is amazing, but begs the question of where are the men in this area of work in this region? So, like I said, very provocative. Come up and we'll talk about it. The second is, could you please talk about collaboration between government agencies in the private sector? What's the scope for partnership in ASEAN? What kind of blended finance particularly is available? So that's all that. And one last thing from our wonderful panelists is, what would be your call to action on investing in Southeast Asia? You don't have to go first. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I encourage you to explore Southeast Asia market with us, and we are very open to all kinds of collaboration. Yeah.
Oh, my call for action is just please do not leave the room until you talk to two of my wonderful co-panels here. Since you need a real gateway, a reliable gateway to enter this market.
All of the above, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think key message or call for action is that, yeah, I think it's not easy. I think hopefully we, we do, I think we are very hopeful or bullish about the Southeast Asian market, but I think the reality is that it does need time. I think we need as many, types of capital as possible. And so, yeah, but, it's also, be prepared for, I guess, failures but it's okay. I mean, with every failure, I think we learn a lot, and so we get up again and fight harder. So yeah, let's collaborate.
Great, thank you all. Wonderful panelists. I would tell you my 3 takeaways from listening to them are how high potential this region is, challenges notwithstanding, but there's great potential and it's varied across so many impact sectors. Second one is about appropriateness. We heard about appropriate technology, about appropriate finance, whether it be blended or different kinds of finance. There were questions here about debt versus equity. And thirdly, this is a region of so much growth, but still so much need, especially in social gaps. And there are financial entities that are working on that in many, many ways, in more ways than I realized. I mean, I love the story about the jobs platform. I hadn't thought about how a gig platform is so important for closing some of the gaps.